All you have to do, Jason, is drive to Lorain or Dayton or Youngstown or Toledo, and you'll see what happened. These were great industrial towns. We lost 90,000 factories since NAFTA got passed, since we gave full trading status to China. And we have to regain our industrial base. We have to reindustrialize this country. We have to create opportunities for working Americans to have a job that allows them to own a home, own a car, be able to raise kids and live a good life where they can go on vacation every once in a while and retire with dignity. That's the essence of the American dream, and that's why we're doing this. Look, this is an imperative, Jason. We need the auto industry to thrive again in America. If you look at the U.S. versus Japan, in Japan, 97% of the cars sold in Japan are made in Japan. Obviously, in the U.S., it's below 50%. It's unacceptable, and we're not going to allow that to continue. So I think this happens in a way that I think is going to surprise people how quickly we can get it done. Nothing's impossible in America. We're going to rebuild this country with American hands, with American hearts, and with American pride. And I think that opportunity that's before us is an imperative. We could not continue to go down the path we were on. And we're changing course, and we have a president and a Republican Congress that knows that rebuilding this country from the middle class up is what's going to make this country thrive going forward. We're going to cut our deficits. We're going to balance our budget. We're going to get our fiscal house in order. And America's best days are ahead of us, Jason. That's what everybody watching this should know. Hi, this is Bernie Moreno, and this is Cars and Culture with Jason Stein.
My longtime friend, he and I have shared a microphone together a few times. For the first time, I can welcome in Senator Bernie Moreno. Thank you for being on with me.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you for doing this and staying in the auto industry and having your voice be heard by lots of people in the industry all over the country.
Thank you so much. Let's get to it. News of the week, news of the year, really, so far. Give us the lay of the land on tariffs. We know what, of course, as of recently, but let's get your read on why, Senator.
Well, that why shouldn't surprise anybody. President Trump, 40 years ago, talked about the importance of tariffs, of protecting the auto industry. And in my case, somebody who represents the great state of Ohio, all you have to do, Jason, is drive to Lorain or Dayton or Youngstown or Toledo, and you'll see what happened. These were great industrial towns. We lost 90,000 factories since NAFTA got passed, since we gave full trading status to China. And we have to regain our industrial base. We have to reindustrialize this country. We have to create opportunities for working Americans to have a job that allows them to own a home, own a car, be able to raise kids and live a good life where they can go on vacation every once in a while and retire with dignity. That's the essence of the American dream, and that's why we're doing this.
The aspect of reshoring, I know, has been top of mind for the administration. In your mind, and knowing what you've known about the industry for so long, that's not an overnight thing. So walk us through the process of what that's going to take and how long it might take in order to achieve the goal here.
Well, we think it can happen a lot quicker than most expect because we're going to have massive permitting and regulatory reform. We're going to pass a tax bill that gives permanency and certainty. I have a bill called the Transportation Freedom Act that's going to set one set of federal standards that states can't mess with or get waivers, that gives the certainty to know what kind of cars they should make. I've asked mayors, county commissioners, and our state officials to put together a list of sites that can be quickly converted to auto use, whether it's suppliers or final assembly. I think there's a lot of excess capacity that exists throughout the country, factories that were once shuttered that we can get back online quickly. Look, this is an imperative, Jason. We need the auto industry to thrive again in America. If you look at the U.S. versus Japan, in Japan, 97% of the cars sold in Japan are made in Japan. Obviously, in the U.S., it's below 50%. It's unacceptable, and we're not going to allow that to continue. So I think this happens in a way that I think is going to surprise people how quickly we can get it done.
And speaking of, I mean, Lordstown Motors and their Lordstown location is an enormous facility that has been shuttered for quite some time. Foxconn owns it in its current state. I'm guessing the value of those properties and similar properties have skyrocketed since this announcement.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, 6 million square feet.
Right.
General Motors spent $1 billion in that factory before shutting it down 6 years ago. That thing can be turned on like that. And again, permitting reform. The idea that if a car company says, you know what, I'm going to buy Lordstown from Foxconn, I'm going to bring uh, big amounts of production. You can produce two or three, 400,000 cars a year there. We're also going to have welfare reform to make certain that there's some sort of state-directed work requirement for able-bodied Americans. So there's 8 million Americans sitting on the sidelines. Let's get them trained up. Let's get them engaged in the workforce. Now that we have a secure border, we can do more reasonable things with immigration if we need to bring people here on our terms. So I think you're going to see the golden age of America right around the corner. And I think most importantly, you're going to see a renaissance in automobile manufacturing in this country, unlike anything we've ever seen.
You referenced the bill earlier that you've been a proponent of, that you've crafted. Tell me the status of that. Tell me what you'd like to have happen in that.
Yeah, if you're watching this podcast and you have a Democrat U.S. congressman or a Democrat senator that you know, make certain that you lobby them hard to sign on to this bill. It's common sense. It says, look, one set of federal standards for 10 years that are technologically achievable and aspirational. We're not trying to go backwards on emissions or fuel economy standards, but we got to give the car companies certainty. They got to know the rules of the road so they can design the cars that people want to buy. If that's electric, great, but we can't force one technology down customers' throats. It doesn't work. And I think that will lower the price of cars, Jason. Because if you're, for example, Ford, and you're losing tens of thousands of dollars per car making EVs, well, you have to raise the price of the cars people do want in order to not obviously go bankrupt. So that allows them to price cars that consumers want more aggressively, allows these companies to be healthier. So it's an imperative that we get this bill done, especially with heavy duty trucks and semis, of course, of which a bunch of them are made in Ohio. Kenworth has a great facility in Chillicothe, Ohio. They can't make electric semis at the rate that California wants them. So we need to get this bill across the finish line this year. It's very important.
And of course, automakers have been whipsawed with changing regulations. You and I have sat and witnessed this. You on the dealer side, me on the media side for quite some time. One set of standards, you're saying,
that states can't change. So
right?
California can't decide, well, I don't care what the federal government tells you, General Motors, you have to make these kinds of cars in my state, which they banned internal combustion engine cars after 2030. That's lunacy. New York State, for example, last year, 7% of the cars that were sold in New York were electric, 7%, with massive subsidies, which, by the way, are going to go away. And next year, they have to sell 35% EVs. Not possible. It's like if my trainer tells me, hey, I know you can bench 100 pounds, maybe exaggerating there, but next week you have to bench press 500. Not for lack of will, but it's not happening. So look, we got to give the car companies the room they need to be able to produce the cars they want. Dealers see that every day, Jason. Dealers know exactly what consumers want. They have their pulse on the market. They feed that information up to the car companies in the form of ordering one kind of car versus another. And that gives them the market intelligence they need to be able to actually know what kind of cars to make. But right now, the government is being the block in that process.
So let's talk about dealers and consumers and reflect a little bit on your days as a car dealer. What would you tell your dealer friends, many of whom I've talked to just in the last week or two, who are worried about market turbulence, consumer confidence, the threat of a recession in the wake of tariffs being enacted?
Well, first of all, you're going to have a great 90 days. Let's be honest. Okay. Car dealers are going to absolutely thrive.
Already had a great March.
Yeah. Great March, great April, great May. Look, the one thing we need in sales is urgency. So you're welcome. All right. So it's a great time to be a car dealer over the next 90 days. And I think by the time this 90-day period is over, the certainty will bake into the system. I think the reality is you're going to see massive amounts of investment in America. Right now, they've already announced $6 trillion in investment. So I think you're going to see the markets react to that as these factories and facilities are moved here and built here. Now, you may have turbulence if you focus primarily on imported cars, especially in the low end of the luxury scale or in the mass market scale. But dealers are very responsive. Go out and know what kind of used cars your market will work with. So you'll see substitution. If you have foreign car makers that add a big price increase to a foreign-made vehicle, you're going to see substitution where that consumer will buy the American-made car instead, even though maybe it wasn't the first choice. So I think dealers will know nobody is better prepared to handle that than car dealers. Jason, car dealers have been through it all. The gas crisis in the 70s, the savings and loan crash in the 80s, the tech boom in the 90s, the crash after 9/11, the financial destruction of the 08-09 crisis, COVID. We are the most resilient entrepreneurs in America, and we'll get through this easily.
Well, in fact, Presidio's director of research, Kevin Tynan, was on with me recently talking about the fact that this could be classified as a tariff pandemic for dealers. In other words, the supply-demand shift could be real enough that the profitability levels could echo what happened just a couple of years ago as the market shifts and adjusts and finds its footing. Dealers, especially during COVID, post-COVID, had exceptional years. You subscribe to that theory?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I think dealers are looking at their financial statements over the next few days for March, and I think they're going to have a big smile on their face, and that's positive because that means they can pay their workers more money, they can invest more in facilities, and this is the business case for why dealers add so much value to the retail automotive business because they can pivot. They're very flexible. They know how to take advantage of market opportunities, and right now there's a lot of market opportunities. Look at your used car inventory. If you're sitting on millions of dollars of used car inventory, all of a sudden that used car inventory became more valuable. I mean, that's an incredible opportunity for car dealers. And we're also, by the way, going to lower interest rates.
Right.
So that helps a lot as well. I have another bill that makes auto interest deductible if you buy an American-made automobile. And again, permitting reform, tax reform, we're going to give you certainty. We're going to make the tax reform in 17 permanent, reset the investment tax credit and the R&D tax credit, no tax on tips, overtime, or Social Security. So all these things are really helpful.
Our friend John Murphy, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, put a report out this week that talked about labor cost differential between the U.S. and other low-cost nations. Low availability of labor was one of his concerns, and reshoring auto parts plants, he says, impossible in the short term, which could lead to consumers having higher prices. Your response to some of the supplier issues, I mean, especially the complexity, Senator, of even the intricacies of engines and what is sourced where. What's your response to that?
Jason, here's my response. America is where we make the impossible possible. This is our Sputnik moment. Americans can rise to this moment, and we, between government and the private sector, can get things done much faster when we put our minds to it. Nothing's impossible in America. We're going to rebuild this country with American hands, with American hearts, with American pride. And I think that opportunity that's before us is an imperative. We could not continue to go down the path we were on, and we're changing course, and we have a president and a Republican Congress that knows that rebuilding this country from the middle class up is what's going to make this country thrive going forward. We're going to cut our deficits. We're going to balance our budget. We're going to get our fiscal house in order. And America's best days are ahead of us, Jason. That's what everybody watching this should know. And look, yes, maybe there's a little bit of turbulence, but we had to change course. $37 trillion in debt, gutting of our industrial sector, our middle class being destroyed. We had conflicts all over the world in which we depend on other countries for critical things. All of that is being turned around in short order. So to my dealer friends, always put a smile on, always know that you're resilient, and you will get through this stronger than ever.
Senator Bernie Moreno, what a pleasure to have you on the program. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Jason.